about liberty.
There, people seem to think it's natural for government to be there. It's not natural. It is a creation of human communities, polities that create governments to serve our needs. But people have this completely backwards the other way around. They keep acting as if we are here to serve government. You have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez in this country seem to think that we are here to serve government. The government is the solution to everything. It's not. It's actually the root of many of our problems. And so you have to have articulate people and get out and explain to people that it's not natural for you. I mean, SASA grants, why would you want a SASA grant? That's failure. Mm-hmm. I realize you're hungry, but you should be more interested, more concerned about how do I get an education? How do I get a job? How would I better myself? You know, it's particularly distressing in South Africa, and I've told people this for about a decade now, that instead of inculcating the values in young South Africans to want to aspire to become entrepreneurs and doctors and lawyers and nurses and soldiers and pediatricians and farmers and agronomists, young people look to the African National Congress and go, I want to be a ward counselor. That way I can get my fingers on the tenders. And so we see this play out in places like KwaZulu-Natal, where we saw over 150 assassinations of local ward counselors by other ANC members. Why? So they wiped out their competition, and now they're the ward counselor, and they get to put their fingers into the tender and profit from it. This is a phenomenon that has been prevalent throughout Africa and was not prevalent in South Africa for the longest time. Before the ANC came in. The National Party had a lot of its own challenges and a lot of shortcomings, but it certainly didn't generate a society that expected that the only path to success was to be a government employee or a politician. But that's been the norm in much of Africa, and that's pretty scary. It's pretty scary because government doesn't create anything except trouble. It can solve some problems with the right resources and the right leadership, but it doesn't create anything. Government doesn't build, it doesn't run airlines properly. Look at South African Airways. It's a disaster. The company was profitable under apartheid when they couldn't land in any country in Africa and had to burn fuel flying around Africa, and they still turned a profit. Mm-hmm. Eskom is an absolute disaster. It was modern to the date that it was taken over by the ANC, and now it's an abject failure. And how many billions have been wasted on that plant up there on the border with Botswana? It's still not in function. They still haven't got that thing up. It's just, it's governments are not the answer. And you have to have people get out and explain to people that it's not natural for you to go and go, okay, well, the government doesn't solve your problem. You're just pawning off your shortcomings onto someone else to do it for you. And you're not embarrassed by that? You think that's okay? Who raised you? That's not the proper way to grow up in life.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. We need to actually start reminding people that government is only there to serve us, to provide the minimum protections that we need from outside forces, and the rest we get to choose for ourselves. And I think the major thing that needs to happen is we need to decentralize a lot of government. Because what works in Pretoria doesn't work in the Northern Cape and doesn't work in KwaZulu-Natal. And I mean in terms of infrastructure providing, provision, and policing, just basic things. Mm-hmm. What works in the city is not going to work in the Northern Cape and other cities. So yeah, that's definitely going to be my next focus, is looking at the bloated government and how much we could actually look at getting rid of if we manage to get rid of the ANC.
That's a good point. I mean, if you look at Zuma's cabinet, he had like 72 ministers. That's insane. 70, I think it was 72. I mean, maybe it was 68. But the point is, now it's down in the 30s, thank goodness. But that's absolutely insane, because every minister comes with an entire staff and an entire budget allocation. And you're not generating more productivity and efficiency. You're just lumping things together. For instance, I could fix a whole bunch of stuff in South Africa tomorrow. You know what I'd do? There'd be no sports minister. Why do you have a minister of sport?
Yes. This is what I want to look at. I want to get rid of the Minister of Sports and Culture. Yeah. Whatever NDZ's actual job title is, when she's not
irrational affairs, non-traditional governance and irrational affairs, I think it is.
Yes, I like that one. Yeah. I actually want to do a deep dive into just how many ministries we have and how many we can actually get rid of.
You could get rid of 75% of them, and you'd see improvement in governance in South Africa, not a degradation. And a fair number of those employees could slide in other ministries where they could be used to pick up the functions doing elsewhere. But you don't need to duplicate these grand poobah minister of this, minister of that, which is what they do. It's another form of patronage. It's all about creating things so that you can take care of your friends and allies, and it's really, really pathetic. It's embarrassing. It's too many ministries. In fact, like in my country, the fact we have a housing and urban ministry department, or the way it's not ministry, we call them departments here, but the housing and urban development, that's ludicrous. Why do we have the federal government involved in housing and urban development? That's not their job. That's a local responsibility. So I could eliminate that position. I could eliminate the Department of Education. They don't serve a purpose other than to waste our money and set standards that are, not reasonable for the country. So there's two right there. If I was president of America, I'd already be out 2 cabinet positions right there, and we go from there. South Africa, I could get rid of 3/4 of them.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the education one as well. As a homeschooling mom, I 100% agree on that one. That we can do away with that in South Africa.
Yeah, well, I mean, the education in South Africa is embarrassing. I mean, it's worse than the Bantu system was. You have literacy rates that are lower today than they were under apartheid. How sad is that for South Africa? The great party, the great African National Congress, founded in 1912, founded back then for liberating South Africa. Equality. Yeah, equality of piss poor outcomes. You're not educated. You got nothing but illiterate kids floating around the country. And you're not embarrassed that you lower the standards to 30, 22% during certain periods for passing marks to enter university. And then you wonder why idiots run around and tear down statues and make asinine comments like science must fall. How about morons must fall? And you should start with yourself.
Yes, I agree. I couldn't have rented any better, to be honest. In fact, I might steal that.
Well, feel free to. It's just crazy stuff. It's and what happens, and see, here's the part that's missed, Beth, and this is right directly to liberty. By keeping the masses ill-informed and poorly educated, you enslave them. You turn them into serfs, because they live from what you feed them information-wise, and their expectations are framed by what you want their expectations to be, not by what's possible, not by what's capable. I mean, frankly, if I was South African, I'd be embarrassed for South Africa about the education standards, and incredibly embarrassed. And gosh, we could go on for hours about this. You have so many South Africans that have no idea what their history of their country is. And you actually have people who I want to feel sad for them, but because it's a lie, I can't feel sad for them. People who show up on farms and go, you must get out of here. You've stolen this land. And the guy's standing there with his camera because he knows that, he could be accused of racism. So he's got his mobile and he's recording. He goes, no, this is my farm. No, you stole this land. No, I bought this farm. No, in 1994, the ANC bought all the farms in South Africa and you've stolen it from the people. You must leave. I bought this farm 30 years ago. I'm paying a mortgage on it. The ANC bought farm. The ANC didn't buy anything. Anything. They bought a few select farms, and they still have tens of thousands of hectares that they're holding on to. They haven't turned over to anybody, but they never bought all the land in South Africa. But there's people that actually believe that, Beth, not just lying. They actually believe that because they've been told that, and they're not sophisticated enough to go 1 + 1 is 2, not 27 because the government told you it was 27.
Yeah, no, I agree that the education standards are doing this country a great disservice, and at the end of the day, it's each individual that is being done that great disservice. I hope you enjoyed the clip of a longer form conversation that was had on this channel. A card was shown earlier in the video that would take you to the original long form live stream. This has been Eleutheria, Enlightening South Africa Through Liberty. YouTube is now recommending another video of mine that you might enjoy. Please don't forget to like this video. And also, if you're new here, please consider subscribing to Eleutheria.